Alright, dude, so we're back, of course, talking about some Final Fantasy VII Remake, but also Final Fantasy 16, because we got some decent updates on that game, and of course, these two games kind of coincide, because 16 is more than likely, like 99.9% certain that it's coming out before Remake Part 2, so the release of one game affects the other. That's why we kind of keep up with both of them, though I don't talk about 16 super often anymore. Also, when it comes to Square Enix, they generally don't like to drop more than like one big title per year. So whenever 16 would drop a certain year, whatever that year would be, more than likely that would mean that Remake Part 2 wouldn't come out any earlier than the next year. So we try to keep up with the Final Fantasy 16 information because of Remake Part 2, but that's not the only reason. Obviously, I'm a Final Fantasy fan. I've played pretty much every Final Fantasy game out there. I'm interested in Final Fantasy 16, just more interested in Remake Part 2. So anyways, onto the info we got for Final Fantasy 16 from Yoshi P, and it says, "We have all the scenarios set in stone already, and the voice recording for the English version is in its final stages. Development is going well. It's quite difficult to make sure the quality is amazing. We want the next announcement to be something where everyone watches and says, 'I'm going to buy this game.' Thus, we are putting a lot of effort into making sure the quality is great. I want to show something at Tokyo Game Show, but I'm not sure if we will make that deadline. I don't like throwing out bits to string people along with small updates, so I want to show it when it's ready." So this was obviously some pretty decent information if you're looking forward to Final Fantasy 16. For one, Tokyo Game Show. We know now that Yoshi P wants to show something there, but they don't know if they're going to be able to. That's still a couple months away. It depends on how development goes from here till then. Tokyo Game Show is taking place at the end of September through the beginning of October, so we still have roughly like 2.5 months, so there could be a chance that if development goes well from here till then maybe they'll have something together for us, like a trailer or something, who knows. But even if Yoshida thinks there's a chance that we might not be able to see anything at Tokyo Game Show, it's still an event to look forward to because it's a possibility. That's something I wish the remake devs did more of, like just letting us know when we could maybe or maybe not next see something. Like it'd be nice if like an interview, somebody asked Katase, "Hey, is Remake going to be at this gaming event?" And he just could give a simple yes or no, or something along the lines of what Yoshi P said. Like, development's going pretty well. I want to show something there, but we don't know if we're going to be able to. Like, stuff like that. Just those kinds of answers and interviews would change a lot of stuff, man. It's one of my biggest gripes as, like, a fan of Remake, but also a content creator is just radio silence, bro. And they kind of done something with 16, to be honest. They showed it last year in September. Again, the website went live in October. And then it's been pretty much radio silence outside of Yoshi P throwing stuff out during, like, Final Fantasy 14, like, live streams or whatever. But other than that, it's been, like, pretty quiet for 16. And when you look back on it, it almost would have been better if they just didn't reveal the game back then, because that's every time there's something coming up, a 14 live stream, a gaming event, people are like, "Oh my god, I hope we get to see 16 there," and they've been let down every single time. But getting back on topic here, the fact that Final Fantasy 16 may or may not be shown at Tokyo Game Show, the fact that they're still doing some of the English voiceover, and they're just now getting like the scenario, the story in line, I think it's pretty good odds that we're not going to see this game this year in terms of like a release date. I think it's guaranteed at this point 2022. Which I think really isn't a surprise to most people out there. I'm pretty sure people were predicting like early as like 2022 whenever this game was revealed last year. Square Enix has a history of doing that. They just show games a lot sooner than they're actually ever going to come out. But according to Yoshida, he doesn't want to like drip feed information to us, and he wants the next time that they talk about Final Fantasy 16 to be pretty close to when you can actually buy the game, which I can appreciate. But again, I'm not a fan of radio silence. I'd rather them give us stuff here and there about 16 instead of just revealing the game and then not talking about it for like a year plus or whatever it's going to be before we next see this game, and then here's some more information. Also, you can buy it now. Like, that's a whole like year of them not talking about the game. Like, why'd you reveal it in the first place? That's just me, of course. Those are my thoughts on that. But how does this obviously pertain to Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2? Well, if this game's not coming out until probably 2022, you're looking at more than likely like a 2023 or later release date, which again, I think people have been talking about for a while. Which I'm perfectly fine with. That's like a pretty good turnaround if you consider the fact that, Remake Part 1 came out in 2020. If Part 2 came out in 2023, that's only 3 years, dude. That's like pretty quick. And I'm pretty sure that's how it was with the 13 trilogy, which is something the Remake project has been compared to by the devs over the last couple of years now. There's only like a couple of years between the release of those games within that trilogy. So it wouldn't be surprising if this game had the second part come out 3 to 4 years after the first one. But it also depends on how ambitious Part 2 is going to be. If it's going to be, an open world, overworld, big maps or zones to explore or whatever, because it took them a lot of years to make this first game. And again, as we always talk about, it's a pretty linear game for the most part. Highly detailed. The graphics are great. The story is great and everything, but it took them a long time for what isn't really a big game in terms of exploration in the world. And if they're making a massive game for Part 2 where you can explore most or a good portion of Gaia, that might take a long time. That might add on like another year or more to development than what we're expecting, so it's kind of hard to say, but I'm still thinking 2023. And with that, I would think that we're going to potentially be getting information towards maybe mid to end of 2022. Kind of depends on whenever 16 is coming out, obviously. But sometime after 16 comes out, we should start getting information, I would think, for part 2. Anyways, dudes, that is pretty much the video. It's been a while since we did any kind of video on Final Fantasy 16, so that's a major reason why I wanted to make this video. But also, the info that we got for 16 did pertain to Remake. But of course, I want to pass off to you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts? And are you looking forward to Tokyo Game Show? Because there is a chance, again, that he says that they don't know if they're going to be able to, but he wants to show something. So there's always a chance that there will be something there. So I think it's safe to have a bit of hype, but of course, keep that hype in check. But of course, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and want to update more Final Fantasy 7 Remake and also the occasional Final Fantasy 16 content. Turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter, dashingdavidYT. I'm a Discord. Links to most social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Low Gain or leave it like Cobain.